as far as maybe around the weekend here, it's some of these results that teams are walking away and having to settle with 1 point. That's not necessarily a bad thing coming out of opening weekend, but for let's say Utah and Bay FC, we're talking about biggest maybe takeaways or biggest moments that we want to react to in over the weekend. And I loved this link up between Mandy McGlynn and Bianca Georges
Ooh.
in the 1-1 draw between Bay FC and Utah Rose. It was incredible. And it kind of lended itself to this trend that we saw across opening weekend with early goals. Showing scoring in the 2nd minute, Corley in the 5th minute, McCutcheon's goal for the Pride in the 7th, St. George in the 12th minute, Emma Sears in the 13th, Morris in the 16th, all these kind of early around 15-minute mark type of goals. Do we think that maybe that's going to be a trend that we continue to see over the course of the 2025 regular season? Or Jess, do you think this is more just kind of early days of NWSL figuring itself out?
Oh, this is definitely the early days of the NWSL figuring itself out, because by the season, you don't know what to expect, especially with the new personnel. We have so many new coaches, we have new players. And so I think that the competition is totally up in the air for grabs right now. But you can see the difference with some of these top teams to lower tier teams, but there's still a lot of time to improve. And that's what makes this league so exciting. You just don't know what to expect. So that's exactly how it is at the start of each season.
Yeah, I think that it's always crazy. You don't know how a team's going to come out, but just knowing from teams I've been on, and Jess, you can attest to this, the message is you come out swinging. You be the one to put them on their heels. You dictate the game from the opening minutes. The first 5 minutes, you want to have a shot. You want to have a 1v1 battle that you're winning, because that sets the tone for the opponent and for your team. Now, the McGlynn, Sandra, I'm so glad you brought this up, because one of my notes watching that match was McGlynn playing high and aggressive. What a blessing and such a curse. Because there's so many moments, and we've seen this happen with Mandy McGlynn, where there's a little bit of pressure applied, or maybe a ball's played a little hard back to her and her touch goes a little too far away, which Jess as a forward, you are licking your chops, ready to make that slide tackle, that pressure to try to block that goalkeeper from being able to clear the ball. And if you get one of those, you know that you're in a keeper's head. You know that they're thinking, I need to get rid of the ball. They're nervous when a pass is coming to them. I think McGlynn handled the pressure really well, because it happened 2 or 3 times where they were really close. She had a really unforced error just playing out of the back. But then again, because she's playing like that sweeper role, they have another person to build in the attack. And she has a great ball. She's so technical with her long range balls. Gets the assist with Bianca St. George. It was a really beautiful goal. But I'm wondering, teams now watching Utah and saying, oh, bet, you want to have your keeper play really, really high out of the 18? Well, let's see what these transitions are like. I wouldn't be surprised if we see, I can't remember who they play next, but look to maybe chip her or try to just test Utah to have her sit back a little bit more.
Interesting. For me, I think one of the other, like a big takeaway for me, because it is game one, and it's game one for everybody, the coaches, the players, their technical staffs, and the officials as well. We saw a lot of fouls. We saw a lot of yellow, different, and reds that were issued over the weekend. That was tough for me, in particular, coming out of this game, this most recent game with Angel City in San Diego. It almost was lending itself to almost a choppy game because of it. At times I felt really early too. Kennedy Wesley getting a yellow, I think, in the opening 2 minutes, only for San Diego to go up in the 5th minute on a banger. So just I'm hopeful that maybe that's a little bit of a week one kind of energy that we're gonna quickly put behind us. Maybe we're gonna get to see the, shake it off officials. Maybe we're gonna get to see some different things. But we definitely saw things affect Seattle and Gotham a little bit. Look, I'm just gonna ask. There was a red card. Mandy Freeman. Jess, your thoughts on this moment, or Darian, your thoughts on this moment? Do you think is it one of those moments where it's gonna just affect Gotham so much in week 2 to not have this player available?
It's tough. Mandy's become such a leader on this team, and I'm so happy for her. I was hyped when I saw Freeman in the starting 11 because Mandy's been with that club since the jump. And she's been one of those players that's had such an up and down relationship with playing time for them. So to finally kick a season off where she's in the starting lineup, she's part of the leadership council, hell yeah. I will say, it was a poor tackle. It was a tough tackle. I saw it went, ooh, because it's from behind, it's late. I'm sure it was to take her down because she was getting away. I don't think the intention was to actually cause harm or for it to be an egregious foul. It did look that way looking from VAR. So it's tough with the red. I wish it wasn't a red. I wish it was just a yellow. But like we said, the refs were real card happy this weekend. Yes. Sandra, I second that. I hope that let them play. Of the first foul of the game doesn't deserve a yellow card. We saw that tonight. I thought that was bizarre. Let people get into the game. Let there be physicality. That's what this is about. You're at a professional level. There's going to be hard hitting. There's going to be a lot of shoulder to shoulder. I'm even thinking now Kundanaji got a yellow in her game, and it was just a shoulder to shoulder tackle. There wasn't anything of malice in it. It wasn't excessive. The players couldn't really keep up with her strength. So I hope that that's reevaluated too going into the rest of the season because it threw the tempo of the game off for me.
For sure. I do wonder if maybe we're going to start to see that what was it, that good behavior rule put into effect pretty early. Look, for people who don't know or people who are psychos and want to read all about rules and regulations, there's a very lengthy document for the 2025 NWSL rules and regulations. And there's a good behavior rule. There's a caveat of good behavior will scale back some yellows. And I just couldn't help but think about that with all of the cards that were issued over this week. And I was like, wow, like that might actually really get put into effect. But even with a trio of teams walking away with pretty big victories, solid 3 points, and others splitting points, it really lended itself to that narrative kind of building itself into this opening weekend where there are going to be some teams who have it together and they're going to pick up right where they left off. And there's going to be some other teams who still need some time to work things out. And there's going to be a whole other tier for teams who we don't really know if they're going to figure things out. Darian, I'll go with you first, and Jess, I'd love to hear your versions of this. But for you, who are the teams that have absolutely got it together? You're not worried about where they're going to go in 2025.
Well, that one's easy for me. The teams that I think got their ish together, it's Orlando Pride, Spirit, KC Current. They came out. We know exactly how they're going to play. We see the principles very clearly of what these teams want to do and how they're going to score goals. The most difficult thing when you're playing in 90 minutes, how are you going to score? Who's going to take the team? I think all three of these teams showed exactly that it's going to be a team win. We don't know who's going to score, but we're going to score. That is how I felt watching all of these teams play. I mean, Orlando's 6 goals, and at any moment thinking, who's going to score? I mean, a defender's going to score. Kansas City, they had 18 or 19 players on their team score last year, broke the record. Well, they might break it again this year, for all we know. And then Washington Spirit, they create so many chances by the way that they counter press and how they take advantage of teams' open spaces. So for those 3 teams, we know exactly what we're going to get the rest of the season. I think the opening game set the standard for all 3 of them.
Jess, for you, I mean, like we said, there were a ton of draws that took place. So who are the teams for you that you could see the recipe, but they're not quite cooking yet? Who maybe is like kind of in the middle tier for you?
Yeah, I would definitely have to go with Courage on this one, Racing Louisville, and I will probably sprinkle a little bit of San Diego Wave. I think San Diego was incredible today going up against Angel City, but a little shaky at times, pretty indecisive trying to combine in the midfield. And, they have a lot of young players, so you could tell that they're trying to get on their front foot and work as a team, and relying very much so on Cascarino, who was just on fuego today. She was the only player that stood out to me. And, Sheridan had a pretty incredible game as well. But as far as Courage, you guys already heard me earlier. They just need a big dog up top that they can combine with and who can bring that real 9 positional pizzazz. And I think that's just where their weakest link really is. And so with that being said, those are probably my three teams.
Nice. Well,
I would add Gotham in there.
I was gonna say, I think there's room for some
Yeah.
other kind of middle-esque kind of
Yeah.
teams.
Like they're
I would
just
agree.
missing some key players. They're missing players that you can really rely on. To me, I had Courage, Utah Royals, Louisville, Gotham, and San Diego. I think you can see what they're trying to
Gray
do.
area.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see the vision. We need something. I'm not sure what it is yet. Maybe it's a big player, like you said, Jess, a 9 for the Courage. Maybe Gotham, it's just a little bit more combination play, or shots on target. Louisville, how are we going to score in the run of play, not on a set piece? Royals, now you have other players who can score. You're not just relying on Ali Sentinor, but it's still kind of choppy. Those are the teams where I'm like, I see it. We're not there yet.
Not
But I
quite
like
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
I would even add Dash in that too. Like again,
True.
they had a good response. They had a good response to the Spirit, but I don't know if any of us are going to be convinced until we finally start seeing them actually getting some dubs or even some results. But my favorite is always the bottom tier category. The what is even going on here
The
category.
Crystal Palaces category.
Crystal Palace.
Some might say.
Hey,
I'll leave Crystal Palace out of this.
listen, you leave them out of this, and at least they got to win, unlike some of these other teams that I'm putting in this category. Look, Chicago, I think that goes without saying. What's going on here? Maybe you could try to struggle and find some silver linings, and maybe we'll get into that a little bit more. But not a good night by any means. Welcome back, Sam Staub. Welcome to the NWSL, Kayla Johnson. Like these are the very little things, right? But no idea where this team is going to go outside of the bottom half of the table. The Thorns, even though Olivia Moultrie got that goal, there's still a ton of question marks. I think as at least as many as there were coming in to this game one for the Thorns. And I would even argue, even though they managed to scrape out a draw, Bay FC for me, I'm not too sure where and or if they could sort of go in a certain trajectory or what that even looks like into week 2 and beyond. So it's just game one. It's early. I'm sure we're going to have more to talk about as these weeks continue to roll out.